Talking to me? Yes, sir. I couldn't hear you. Just talk. What are you saying?
Go ahead, if you don't mind, could you count the stats so I'll be able to hear you?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Go ahead and take a step.
I realized myself muted. Apologies. Can you go ahead and take a step to your left?
Hey, I can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead. I had myself muted. I apologize. All right.
I thought y'all were playing a candid camera joke on me there for a minute.
No, it's me. It's me trying out too many things, trying to be fancy. All right, so I sound good. I'm gonna start my record real quick. Kyle, if everything sounds good to you, I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself.
Keith, I'm not seeing Coach. I'm seeing the video. Now I'm seeing Coach. Okay, well, JJ, did you have your hand raised first? All right. JJ, you're up.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Right.
I guess I wanted to ask you about it's the question everybody wants to know, the quarterback position. How's that competition going so far this week?
They each get better every day, and couldn't be more proud of that group. One day one will have a slightly better day. The next day, the next one will step up. But all four of them have represented themselves very well. They busted their tails. They've gotten better. And each one of them has an aspect of their game that's unique from the other one. And I'd pick any of the four and feel confident we could go win football games.
Do you have a feeling at this point in camp? Do you know who that person will be? And
It depends
at
on
least
what,
maybe in the back of your mind.
It depends on what day you ask me. We're getting closer, and we'll have a decision here, pretty soon.
And on the other side of the ball, I wanted to ask you about the middle linebacker group. That's kind of almost like the quarterback of the defense. How's that position battle looking? Who are some of the guys that have stood out?
Well, obviously Trevor Harmanson, Tyler Mankey, DeMarco Guidry, Jamal Ligon. Those four kids have played really well. Clarence Hicks has played well, obviously, as well. So we're going to play a bunch of kids. And that's the secret to making it through this season. This season's going to be like none other. Your depth is going to be incredibly, incredibly important. We're still working ones, twos, and threes, and we know that makes it go a little longer out there. We just feel very confident we're going to need all those threes at some point during the season to play for us.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, Greg, you're up.
Jeff, how are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good, good. You guys have talked a lot really through the fall and even before this about throwing a lot of mud at the wall and seeing what happens. How is the installation process going? How much is getting picked up so far?
There's frustration with that, obviously, because we want to begin with the end in mind and get our entire offense in. And when we find out who we're playing and the scheme we'll be playing, we'll start shrinking that back down, Greg. But until we know that, we're going at this with a very big picture mindset, which you can imagine how much harder that makes when you're repping four quarterbacks. So when we know our first opponent, the scheme, the quarterback, we'll start pulling back.
Do you think you'll be able to focus on what you need? Like, is there enough of the big picture that they've picked up that you feel confident with? Or do you know right now there's going to be certain stuff that they've picked up that you'll have to lean on more heavily?
Well, it'll depend on which guy we go with at quarterback, because all four of them are so uniquely different. So once we make that decision, that will also clean up the installs where they won't be, such big installs. They'll be smaller installs. It's just we'd like to. When we find out who our opponent is 2 weeks out, we'll start getting a lot smaller.
How about on the defensive side? How is the installation going there? Is it sort of the same situation?
It's very similar. It's very similar. Coach Nix is beginning with the big picture in mind. And when we find out who we're playing 2 weeks out, we'll really start preparing for those guys.
I know JJ asked you about a couple specific positions, but generally, how far along are you in building a depth chart? Is that still coming together, or do you have something you feel pretty good about on paper already?
No, we're running 1s, 2s, and 3s. Certain positions have different players in them every day. Certain positions have the same people in there every day.
And then on Monday, we talked about students coming back on campus, how the guys have responded to that. Through the 2 days since then, how have you seen them handle this, and where do you stand in that regard?
Our players have done a much better job with their masks. Our coaches have done a really good job of reminding our players about their masks. We won't do a meeting. We won't start a meeting unless their masks are on and their notes are out. When we go in the gymnasium, we won't start a walkthrough till our masks are all on. So we're doing a heavy emphasis on that. You can see what's going on. I've told y'all before, we speak about current events quite a bit with other universities that have let their kids back on campus. You've seen some of those, rates go up. We can't be one of those schools. We've got to be better than that. We've got to hold ourselves to our standard. And I know it's a lot to ask of young men, but I believe our guys can bubble themselves and take care of themselves.
Got it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Coach Traylor? All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
We'll get Coach Perry and some players in there shortly. Hang on.
quick what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
Kyle, I'm all good. It's all you.
All
So
right.
we'll open it up for questions for Coach Perry. JJ, you're up first.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us today. How are things going with special teams so far in camp?
I'm the last guy you want to talk to at this point in camp. There's still so much to do. I'm really pleased with our team athleticism. We've got a lot of guys that can run around really, really well, but there's still so many special situations to get through. I still am learning our personnel as best I can. Coach Traylor is tremendous in that, trying to help paint a picture of the full, guy. But every time you're putting in, 6 different units, there's going to take some time to get the vocabulary right, some of the organization right. I think we've got some really good, solid specialists. I think we've got some really good young specialists in the pipeline as well. Our older guys have done really, really well, taken to everyday coaching, which is not the way it is everywhere, but they've really embraced that and done a really good job. And some of the role players are kind of rising to the top. So we're trying to still in the process of learning who we can trust and who we can put in those critical situations on teams.
With the place kickers and the punters specifically, how have you seen those guys work through this fall camp?
They're doing really, really well. That's kind of a unique relationship for a specialist. It's for you guys that play golf, with a swing coach or a quarterback with a quarterback coach, there's got to be a level of trust that's developed that way because you've done a certain thing a certain way for a long time. So it really took a big leap of faith for Lucas and for Hunter, and now with Everett and Colby to really let their guard down and just embrace what it is that we're trying to do. And they've done that as well as any group I've ever been around. They really want to be good. They really want to be coachable. They really want to be leaders on this team. And I think particularly with Hunter, he has taken on that role. He doesn't mind barking at some linebackers or some DBs or wide receivers if they're not taking care of business the way they need to. So I've really been proud of the way he's taken on that mantle of leadership. And Lucas he's my first Aussie. I've always kind of looked at him from afar and go, that'd be really nice to have, to play with and do some of those interesting things that they do. His mentality is not the same as a lot of guys that were dyed-in-the-wool football guys, from Texas. But he's not very easily shook at all. He wants to please. He wants to do a really good job. It just takes a little bit different connection with Lucas in order to get him to where we need to do. But there's no lack of work ethic. There's no lack of wanting to embrace everything new and everything different. So Lucas has really picked it up well. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Everett play a little bit this year either. He's done really, really well. He's got a great leg, strong leg.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
Hey, Greg, you're up.
Coach, what's the challenge been like for you of getting the team ready to go on special teams without having spring available? Is that typically an important time for you guys?
It's critical. The spring is so important for us on special teams, just kind of figure out who your guys are. And, with no spring, no work going into it, just trying to watch guys run around and lift weights, try to figure out who they are. It's been a challenge. It's funny just geographically how the profile of most of your team looks. You have a group of guys, mostly predominantly from this state, but really all over the South. Man, they like to be coached hard. They like to be pushed. They like to be pressed. There's so many young guys that are athletic on our team. The challenge for me really has been to slow it down. And Coach Traylor's had to many times has told me during the period, hey, Tommy, chill out, because there's so much work I'm trying to get done. There's so much identification I'm trying to get done in our 2 periods of practice. But I think that's probably is just the challenge of learning the skill set of all the guys. I read an interesting article, I think it was ESPN, on my guy Joe Judge, and they don't put any names on the back of their jerseys. They don't put any numbers on the front or on the back if they can. Right now they have to, but if they can, take all those numbers off to just try to watch guys how they move to identify them that way. And that's where I'd like to try to get to during this short amount of time, is be able to watch a guy, watch him how he moves, what his skill set is, and help him figure that out. That's on top, man, of, backed up punt or, obvious onside kicks. I mean, there's so many things that we're trying to get done in, and Coach Traylor's carved out a lot of time with our walkthroughs and with all of our practice periods to try to put it in. But it's mental overload for those guys right now. They're doing well. They're doing well.
So when you guys are getting your players on the field for the first time in the fall, I imagine the offensive and defensive depth charts are coming together slower than they would in a typical year. Does that have like a trickle-down effect to special teams where you're not really sure what guys you're going to have in a given set?
Yeah, and that's still a process. Starters on offense and defense are going to play on teams. That's going to happen. But I also don't want to be silly. And if there's a middle linebacker that's getting over 75% of the plays on defense, he doesn't need to be on all 4 core special teams. That's not smart for Coach Nix. That's not smart for Tommy Perry. That's not smart for anybody on our football team to put a player in that situation. So, and all those things are not exactly set in stone yet either. So to answer your question, that first day of punt, we had, 6 deep on every position, just trying to figure out who could do what and when and where. And Coach Traylor, I think, has done a good job of slowing things down and say, hey, we're going to need a 3 or 4 deep. If somebody, does test positive and there's contact tracing, all around him, and we have to pull a number of guys off the field, we got to have a group of guys behind ready to fill in and know what it is that they're doing. So typically you got to prepare for injuries. Now with COVID, you got to prepare for injuries and illness, so that you can continue to play a football game if most of your guys are still healthy and can get it done in a safe way. So I guess, we're still trying to figure out exactly who those starters are and who those backups are. But then also those starters, what share of the plays are they still getting? And I'm just trying to keep my head above water as best I can.
What has been the biggest difference going through camp with all the precautions and protocols that have been in place for the pandemic?
Yeah, it's probably that not having a spring. I've never been in that situation where I didn't have anything and I just dropped at the beginning of fall. An install calendar is very near and dear to every special teams coordinator's heart, because you got to have every situation and every phase of special situation for every day that you have a practice. And you do it all from beginning to end. And then you look it over during the summer. That first game has moved so many different times. That's changed my whole schedule. That's changed my whole calendar. So that's been difficult. That's been interesting. The meeting space, being spread out, that's been unique. That's been different. That's been interesting. And then just having fail-safe plans. We've got to have a 3 deep at every specialist position. I've talked to guys around the country. I know they probably wouldn't be real happy if I told you where they were from, but I've talked to special teams coordinators that are still playing around the country. And some of them, I talked to one guy, he has no specialists. He has no specialists because one guy or maybe 2 of them tested positive, and everybody in that room was contact traced out. So they can't practice any special teams other than with the jugs. So that's really, really tough. So trying to make sure that our guys are practicing social distancing and trying to train up our punters to be able to hit an extra point, trying to be able to train up our kickers to be able to hit some rugby punts if we needed that to get us through the game, for a 3 deep and a 4 deep at every specialist position. That's been kind of unique.
Do you personally feel totally safe with going through the season, or where do you individually stand on that?
I think when we first showed up, I think everybody is that way. And unfortunately, it's that way in society too. Everybody starts off and, they're doing temperature checks, and everybody's doing a really good job of washing their hands and wearing their masks. And then a couple days later, you kind of get lax with it. And you'll see a restaurant where they're not doing as good a job of cleaning up or checking your temperature when you go in. The biggest thing that gave me the most confidence was our last round of testing when everybody came out clean and came out clear. I moved from downtown San Antonio, and I'm now kind of in the Alamo Heights area. And you walk around, and there's a lot of people that are nervous, and for really good reason. Because of the amount of testing that we do and because of the good job that our strength coaches and our trainers do, I can honestly tell, my kids, when I see them at night, I go to the safest place in San Antonio because we can test our athletes, we can test all the coaches, we can test all the trainers and everyone. And I know it's expensive, and I know everybody in the community deserves to get that and to receive that. But right now, with us having that privilege to get that done, I can feel safe going into work. And more importantly, I can look at those young men and my daughters back at home and say, we're doing the very best we can. And I'm actually in a situation that's a lot safer than any other place that I know of because of the amount of times that we get to get tested. It's not fun, but it's reassuring, I guess, after it's done.
Got it. Thank you, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Coach. We'll get Hunter in there shortly.
Okay. Good deal. Thanks, guys.
Warmed them up for you. Go get your friend.
Go ahead and do a quick 10 count. Let's make sure your audio sounds good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sounds good. I'm going to make a quick adjustment, and I'm going to mute myself. All right. Everything looks good to me. Go ahead. I'm sorry, you, Carl.
All right. We'll take questions for Hunter Duplessis, senior place kicker. JJ, you're up.
Hunter, thanks for joining us today. Coach says you've sort of emerged as a leader on the team. What kind of led to your role as one of the team's leader?
I would say I want to help my teammates, and that was a role I was willing to assume because not everybody would like to be a leader. Some people merge better as followers, and it's that complex relationship. And the symbiotic relationship of all of that keeps us moving forward. But I wanted to be one of those guys. And it started with doing all the drills correctly during the small spring mat drill period that we did have before COVID hit, and moving on from there into a weight season when we could get in the summer, and making leadership moves in the right direction, showing the guys that, yes, I'm a kicker, but I can get along just as well with everybody else and do the right thing when nobody's looking. So that was a big piece of it all right there.
Is it unique to be on a football team where one of the specialists is, kind of getting after some of the other position players as well?
It's very unique. I would say that most programs don't have specialists who step up to the plate and are more vocal as we are as a unit. Most will probably hide in the back of the room because they don't share the exact same experiences as everybody else when it comes to the field of play in terms of tackling, in terms of their craft. It's a little bit different. We have one job and we need to execute it truly flawlessly to help our team out. And so we had to integrate with the other guys and make sure that we were doing right by them 24/7 and earning their respect and doing the correct things at all moments when eyes were on us. That way we could earn their trust over time with that truth process.
All right. Thanks, Hunter. Appreciate it.
Hey, Greg, you're up.
Hunter, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. I'm wondering, what's it been like for you practicing with all the different protocols and safety precautions that have been in place to guard against COVID?
It's been different, that's for sure. There was no uneasiness, though, coming back. I knew where Coach Traylor stood. I knew where our athletic training staff stood on the matter. We were going to do this, and we were going to do it correctly, and we were going to do it safely. And they've been nothing but diligent with their work when it comes to all of the COVID testing that we've done on a weekly basis, when it comes to Coach Philo scheduling us into the correct time periods. So we're following protocol and 25% capacity rules and ensuring that people are social distancing. So definitely different, but very necessary. Compared to my experiences in the past, I can't say that I've ever been through something like this. But one person, one teammate, or even staff member, for that matter, could change the complete outcome of the program. I think everybody's handled it extremely well and been very knowledgeable on this subject and very responsible as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that risk that really any one person can bring in. How have you changed your routine away from practice to try to keep that bubble that you guys have tried to build?
Most of it's difficult because you want to go see friends, you want to go see family. My wife's at home and she's about the only person that I see outside of this bubble. But you have to push aside the things that you would like to do for a greater purpose, really, because we truly have something special going on here at UTSA. And when you put that in retrospect, you're able to see the bigger picture, and you're able to see that there are about 209 other people that are counting on me on a daily basis to not go do the things that maybe I want to do or typically do. And although it's difficult as a college student, it's very necessary at the same time to be responsible and be a man, or if you're a staff member, woman of integrity for the program.
Does that challenge increase as students start to move back on campus this week? What's that been like the last couple of days?
It's been different. It's been different seeing people around campus or just seeing people outside of our bubble in general, because I think we've done a great job of keeping our bubble and not allowing others in out of safety measures and precautions. But just seeing other students at the cafeteria, you have to be mindful that anybody outside this bubble could have COVID-19 coming from different places, and everybody moving in after being home from different states as well. So just being mindful of the circumstances we find ourselves in is very essential. Practicing social distancing, keeping our masks on, very important. But we're trying to protect the team wherever we go and make sure all of our guys and our staff members are taken care of.
So do you feel completely safe going through with the season? Do you think, based on what you've seen so far, that this can work and you guys can have a successful year?
Yeah, I 100% do. I trust in our staff. And a big shout out to our athletic trainers and Nick Turner and Dan Bellamy. I mean, they've done an amazing job sorting through every last little possible detail they can, from scheduling us for COVID testing down to the last minute that we go in the morning to ensure that there's not heavy foot traffic, making sure we're all wearing our masks as well. They've done so many things for us that have created a very safe environment and kept us out of harm's way in terms of COVID-19. I feel completely safe, and I'll tell anybody that because that's a question I frequently get. But when you have people who care so much about the health and the well-being of athletes and staff members, it's easy to rest on that. Very, very easy to rest and turn off the news and just focus on ourselves here because we're doing it the right way.
Got it. Thanks, Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else for Hunter? All right, we'll hopefully get Trevor in there in a few minutes.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
go ahead and count to 10 real quick. Make sure your audio sounds good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Good.
6.
All right. I'm gonna go ahead and actually, yeah, that works. A little taller, so I gotta adjust it. All right, I'm good. I'm gonna mute myself. How's all you?
Okay, yeah, Trevor's definitely taller than Hunter. So we'll get started here with JJ. Questions for Trevor Harmanson. JJ, you're up.
Hey Trevor, how's it going? Thanks for joining us today. What's it been like so far this fall camp for you?
The intensity level, us being mentally and physically tough, and just executing the game plan.
How's this defense gonna look? Coach Nix is kind of bringing in a new scheme. Is it really a lot different than what it was last season?
Yeah, I mean, we run a very odd defense, but I like what Coach Nix got cooking up. I feel like everybody's on the same page, and we're gonna execute the cause just right, perfect.
I asked Coach Traylor how the kind of interior linebacking group is looking. That was kind of an area of concern last year, and he mentioned you as one of the standouts. How have you taken to work in this position this fall?
I would say being more aggressive, more focused on my keys and all the fundamentals that we go over in like individual like position groups. Just taking what Coach Nix taught us into consideration every play.
Are you bigger than last season?
I still weigh about 230. I ain't grow too much, not in the height, but I'm around 230 right now.
How would you assess how you changed from this season to last season?
That's a good question. Just being mentally and physically tough every play, trying to give it my all, trying to strain every play. Yeah, that's it.
All right, thanks, Trevor. Appreciate it.
All right, Greg, you're up.
He left. Trevor.
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry.
it's cool. It's cool. But I was going to ask you, what has it been like for you individually adjusting to the new defense? How's that going? Do you have any new responsibilities or anything?
Nah, not too many new responsibilities, just mainly focusing on what I have and my responsibilities on defense and just executing it every play.
What was your off season like with everything kind of being shut down? Did you find a place to get some workouts in, or how was it structured for you?
People just found out what to work out and get it in any way you can, trying to stay on top of your body.
Did you have access to a weight room, or was that not until you got back here?
I actually stay by a weight room, World Gym, like right around the corner from my house. So I had a personal trainer working me out every day, just me by myself, quarantine, just to stay on top of my body.
Gotcha. Who else do you think is going to really be a contributor at the inside linebacker position this year? Has anybody stood out in your perspective?
We have a freshman named Jamal Ligon. I feel like he'll be a standout. We got two more players, Tyler Mankey and DeMarco Gidry. I feel like I have a good season this season.
Coach Nix was telling us a little bit ago, I guess it was a week or two ago, that like when he came in, people said the linebacker group was a question mark and they weren't so sure about the depth. But he said he took that as a challenge. Is that like a mentality that's carried through your group, or how do you view that?
Well, Coach Nix is always on us every day about being perfect, and even if we're perfect, like we could be better than that. So I guess that's just the main focus of being better than we were yesterday.
And how about with all the different safety precautions and protocols that are in place through practice? What's that been like for you? What's been the biggest difference?
We really been staying on top of all the safety protocols, like wearing our masks when we need to, social distancing, and staying in our bubble. So Coach Traylor really enforced that, and we really taken that into consideration.
Do you feel totally safe with the prospect of going through the season, or where do you stand on that as it gets closer and closer?
For sure, I feel 110 completely safe. I feel like we're working, staying in our bubble, doing what we told. We had 210 people tested, and all of us came back negative. So I feel like we're doing a great job.
Cool. All right, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Anything else for Trevor? All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.